the TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story? If you want homework, check it out. It's about 15 minutes, YouTube, free, totally worth it. And one of the things she shares in there is that the problem with stereotypes is not so much that they're incorrect as much as they are incomplete, and they give you one narrow single story to understand a whole group of people. And any single story is going to have us getting it wrong. So, but at the same time, that single story is a truth. It's just not the whole truth, right? So white males dominate the ranks of school shooters and serial killers. If that's the only information point you have, is it fair to say white males are always dangerous, super violent, unsafe people? Doesn't sound fair. Doesn't sound accurate. Even though those two little data points are true, it's not the whole truth or the whole story. Same thing with the stories we get about native poverty, despair, trauma, and tragedy. Well, there are truths in that story, but it's not the whole story. And we want it to be simple. Like as humans, we get cognitive overload trying to understand all the complexity and nuance to everyone and everything. That's a lot of work. We are hardwired from caveman days, to make a judgment in seconds, and it kept us alive. It's at the heart of implicit bias. All right? It's not like saber-toothed tiger jumps out from behind the rock. Seems to be about 350 pounds, has rather large canine teeth, sharp claws. He's acting aggressively. The best thing to do is run. No, you take one look and you're like, run! And it saved your life. So we often make judgments and decisions based on limited information and single stories. And it trips us up. It really does. So how do we broaden our array of stories and provide some different context for thinking about that? And let me just, talking about things like race in mixed company is terrifying for a lot of people. So let's just start there. It's scary. A lot of people are terrified that we're going to offend someone, expose an ignorance, or it's going to go sideways. Or are just scared or tired about getting beat up around the ears for the sins of one's ancestors. And so the impulse is to lean out, to be like, man, I don't need to hear it again. Can't we do something positive? I'm out. Delegate it to someone else. Send an email to Anton, see if he'll deal with it. Whatever. It's a normal impulse. Like, oh, we have a new neighbor and they're different from me. I'll drop off a casserole and give them their space. But that has us leaning out, and that's tough. I think especially a lot of white Americans have been kind of insulated from certain kinds of racial discomfort. It's getting harder to avoid it nowadays. But you could probably speak English and only English your whole life, and there will be no punishment for that or real shaming experience. And could operate in a white majority space most of your life without having a negative impact on your quality of life. And minoritized populations, man, when we go out into the world, into this country, and we're looking for who's in charge, we are usually looking at someone from a different racial group. And so we're having a different experience just doing life. And as a result, of being somewhat insulated from certain kinds of racial discomfort, when somebody shows up and says, we're going to talk about race today, people are like, radical discomfort, I'm out. It's kind of like you've been skipping leg day for life, and now someone wants you to go to the gym and do body squats. in front of all these people. And that does not sound good. It sounds decidedly not good. And so the response is, oh, I'm skipping leg day. I'm out. But don't skip leg day. Come to the gym. It is good for you. And something funny happens if you embrace it. You start going to the gym, and I have to be honest, I cannot promise you that leg day is going to always feel awesome all the time. Because sometimes it's going to feel not awesome. There are 330 million people in America. Someone's going to go sideways. There's no way to stop them. Someone's going to be emotionally dysregulated and let you have it. There's no way to run from it. Come to the gym anyways. Some days when you're doing your body squat, man, that's going to hurt. But if you keep coming, you acclimate to your workout, and the workout starts to feel good, genuinely good. So good that if you go on vacation and you're not able to do your leg day for a little while, and you come back, you're like, I can't wait to get back into my workout regimen. And above all, you are getting stronger. So you can do your part of the lift, and we need you to do your part of the lift. And for everybody else, you're all hulked out from doing leg day all the time. Every time you go out in the world to find who's in charge, you're finding somebody who is different from you, and like you're used to that. So there are different challenges. There, folks are dealing with anger and frustration and exhaustion. Like, do I really have to explain it again? Is it really that hard to understand? Do I really have to kindly, politely, patiently wait longer when I don't get to live as long? So there, the advice is, explain it again. Do it again. Show up again. You got to do leg day too, even though you're all hulked out. You got to do leg day for your own health and well-being, and sometimes you got to spot some of these other people. Because the only way through this stuff is together. There are challenges for all of us. Everyone's going to have something difficult to deal with. But avoiding problems does not make them smaller. If you got a financial drama in your life, just ignoring it doesn't make it go away. Sooner or later, they repossess the car or the house or the whatever. Sometimes you have to do the interventions. We got to do the stuff. We got to show the kids what it looks like for adults to do healthy adulting. Which means sometimes we're cleaning up after the storm that we did not make because it's not our fault. And to remember, too, that these tough topics, like we have to get out of the judgment game. And honestly, like every dimension of Western culture is fused with it. From religious conversations to the secular ones. About identifying who's at fault and holding them responsible. But if that's our culture, then it becomes a defense mechanism. I have good intentions. Therefore, I'm not responsible for cleaning this up. Honestly, most of the injuries in the world are done by people with good intentions. Shoot, I bet most of the car accidents, everyone has good intentions. You still get some bad consequences. I bet you some significant percentage of people who have affairs actually had good intentions. They just got lost. Still causes harm. So, it's not about intentionality. But we do need to be more intentional about how we respond to all of these things. And this stuff, it operates at multiple levels. And I could back up and say too, like for the racial part, human beings invented the concept of race. We truly invented it. It's a social construct. It really is one race, the human race, but we invented the divisions. And we keep changing the definitions. Initially, the Irish were considered not white, which most Minnesotans think is kind of hilarious because what could be whiter than being Irish? But the Irish were treated as second-class citizens, denigrated, disrespected, and denied opportunity based upon their not white status. Then the definition of whiteness changed to include the Irish. Then Italians were considered not white. We passed laws to stop those not white people from coming here. And then the definition of whiteness changed to include Italians. When my father lived in Europe, he was considered not white and his family was murdered for not being white. Came to America, once he mastered English, the whiteness opened all kinds of doors. So we literally invented it and changed the definitions. By the way, we are in the middle of changing the definitions again, because it used to be that you had to click Hispanic/Latino or black or white on a census. And now if you click Hispanic/Latino, you get a drop-down menu, and you can pick from different racial categories. We just shifted it from a racial to an ethnic category, which, by the way, is probably a little more accurate, although it's far from perfect. That will serve to fold some of the Hispanic/Latino population into whiteness, preserving a white racial majority and our racial caste system. That's happening right now. By the way, sometimes it surprises people. Argentina is whiter than the United States of America. We usually think south of the border equals brown, but if you ever traveled to the Dominican Republic, it's predominantly black. Argentina's predominantly white. You turn on a soap opera from Mexico, lots of blonde hair and blue eyes, by the way. There's a lot of complexity to all of that stuff. We invented it, we changed the rules, but it's also the case that this stuff we invented is an excellent predictor for longevity, school test data, and disciplinary data for K-12. So it's kind of like we have to pay attention to this thing we should not have to pay attention to get to the point where we do not have to pay attention to it anymore. And that means leaning in, doing some body squats, coming to the gym. Also, this thing we invented is complex. So the easiest one and what most people think of is at the individual level. Someone who has like racial animus, says a racial slur, like we can all see that and be like, not okay. Well, most of us can see that and say not okay. However, at the individual level, it ranges from the really obvious stuff that's easy to see to low-level implicit bias, which is harder to see. And then there's also like a meso level, which is like systems, policies, procedures kind of stuff. So for example, that would be, just as an example, like this kid right here from a decade ago. He was going to school in a public school. He was in foster care. And the school said all boys need a haircut above the collar. And this is in Seminole, Texas. The foster parents said, well, wait, this is a native kid. In his tribe, they only cut their hair if there's been a death in the family. He's really young. He just got removed from his parents. He might think that his parents died. This could even traumatize the kid. What are we supposed to do? And they said, well, if you can prove that he's an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe and authenticate that this is an important part of his religion, then we can use that to petition the school board for a variance, which they did. The reason I'm raising this is not to say, like, shame on those guys or whatever, but I bet they did not have bad intentions. I bet there wasn't an individual with racial animus who's like, let's figure out how to make life hard for these natives. They're probably thinking, boys with short hair is normal here in Texas. We had problems with bullying last year, and if they all have short hair, there'll be less problems. Or they're thinking it's Texas and we don't appropriate enough money for education, there's no AC and it's really hot, so this is going to be better. Or whatever it is, right? But the end result is, in spite of good intentions, we give them the benefit of a doubt for good intentions, there's still a racially predictable impact because of a policy. And sometimes it's easier to address at a policy level than it is on an individual behavior level. Because individuals will always defend their good intentions. By the way, this is why it's hard. Like if we say there's a problem with sexism and patriarchy. Because of the individualism filter, a lot of dudes will listen to that and be like, wait a minute, I'm a good guy, you don't know me. But we didn't say you're not a good guy. We said women aren't as safe when they go for a jog, aren't paid the same amount of money in the same environment for the same level of work. Can we do something about that? So it is hard for people to filter out their individual stuff and just be like, yeah, we should do something so that women can be just as safe when they go for a run. And like if you put it that way, most will say, yes, women should be as safe when they go for a run. But when it comes to doing something about it, I'm a good guy, you don't know me. And the same thing happens around race. If we say, hey, there's a problem with racism, and then a lot of white folk will feel an impulse to say, wait a minute, I'm a good person, you don't know me. We didn't say you're not a good person. We said black and brown people don't get to live as long. Can we do something about that? So that is part of Leg Day, to separate our individual defensiveness and individualism from looking at this meta-level stuff, systems, policies, procedures, things that have a racially predictable or gender predictable impact.